And
I think we're on.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Epic Power Zoom, where as your nationals, Julia Lee and I are committed to supporting you to creating abundance and wealth. And so thank you so much for making the time in advance to be on live. I just feel like live is more engaging, but if you're watching it back on replay, it's going to feel like live. So good afternoon, and here we go.
Okay, you guys, so I just have two quick announcements before Julia takes it away with some training. So we've got two very, very exciting calls coming up. And one you don't know about yet because we just confirmed it, I believe, today with Grace. So Grace Kiahoho, which most of you know or have connected with at coaching school, she made this very, very generous offer to Pam, and then Pam generously offered it to mine and Julia's areas, so to the entire Epic family. Grace is going to do training on booking. And we scheduled this for Monday the 2nd, which is a very appropriate time to dig into that topic and to focus on that, of course, for the deadline of book 10 by the 5th. And so this is open to the entire Epic family. It's Monday the 2nd, live at 3. No, that's not right.
1 Eastern.
1 Eastern.
1 Eastern. Okay, 1 Eastern, noon Central. We will go live with Grace. And so mark it on your calendar because that's going to be phenomenal. And then the next Monday, this is kind of a switch up. You guys, we've been doing our Epic Power Zooms on Thursday. Well, October's a little bit different because of fall advance schedules and things that we've got going on. So we're going to do a Monday Epic Power Zoom at the normal time, which is 1 Eastern, noon Central. Okay, so I hope you have those on your calendar. We believe live is always better. And so if you can join live, I think it's you're more engaged and you get more out of it. So of course they'll both be recorded, so you can tune in after if you just can't make it. We get it, but if you can be on live, I think it's so much more engaging, fun, and effective for you to be on live. So, okay, I think I'm going to turn it over to Julia.
All right, thank you so much. So Pam, can you make me big?
You're big, but I'm going to make
blow me up.
I'm going to make you bigger. Hey, just to remind you guys while I make Julia big, and I can answer questions.
It's like a Gia monster. Anyway, I love it. All right, I'll let you settle with that. So, hey, it's Julia. Oh, here I am. I'm big now. Hey, everybody. Oh, my gosh, it's such a joy to be able to share with you all today. And I'm on deck today, and I'm excited about what I'm talking about. And I hope that this is going to add some value to your knowledge as we kind of move through the new consultant orientation process. So I felt like last week or the last Zoom we did that Leah did a really good job, of taking on the new consultant orientation, just because, I mean, that could feel like a big chunk of what we're talking about. And so she did a fantastic job. And if you haven't got a chance to go back and review that one, it's fantastic. And what we're doing today is digging a little bit more into that, giving you some auxiliary type of knowledge, and then Pam and the one in October is going to dig a little bit more into it as well. So we're not done yet, really crunching down on that new consultant orientation. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit more about credit and credit scores. We're going to talk about building relationships with local banks and understanding the financial resources that you're giving out and that you're recommending to your new unit members. And then we're also going to move a tiny bit into having a confident, predictable new consultant education process. All right, so that's kind of where we're going today. And one of the reasons that we felt like it was really important to give you some background on credit and credit scores is just because this is something that for most leaders, it's sort of a new area. I mean, I didn't really know anything about credit scores until this one conversation I'm going to tell you about. So I want to first say that, I'm not in the credit industry. I make no claims to be an expert on this, but I just want to share with you what I have really picked up over the years of being in business. And since you are in business, you do need a cursory overview of at least of what credit is and how to support and well advise your new gal, okay, and how to move forward with financing your stores. So years ago, this is pre my first top director trip, I remember realizing that one of the metrics for me that was on the lower end was my new consultant initial inventory orders were on the lower side. Like I had the unit size and I had the unit growth down, but that initial order was like really low. And I recognized if I could just improve that initial order, we would be a trip unit. If that's the only metric that I changed, that would put us over to become a trip unit. And so I knew that Heather Irby had really high percentages of new coming in that were qualified. And so I went to Heather and I said, hey, can I listen in on some of your welcome chats? Because I want to hear, you know, what you're saying and just I just want to learn from what you're doing, because obviously you are very good at bringing in qualified consultants. And during that conversation, I realized she seemed to know a lot about credit. She seemed to know a lot about credit, and because she knew a lot about credit, she could ask pointed questions, and she sat in a position where she really had an authority of knowledge on this, and she really was able to advise her new gals with a lot of confidence. She was really able to lead them and to take her to the next step. And I left that call going, I don't know the first thing about credit. You know, maybe that would be a good idea. And so I decided right then that I was going to take the bull by the horns and I was going to dig into learning about credit so I could also speak confidently and with authority. Okay. So I'm probably going to give you a little more information than you probably need to know. But I feel like that if you know a little bit more than your people know, at least that you'll feel like you're coming from a position where, you know, you're well advised. Okay. So there are 3 credit agencies. Okay. And your score usually comes from these 3 credit agencies, and they're not one is better than the other, just different credit cards pull from different ones, different banks pull from different agencies. And it's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And usually those 3 credit agencies for you have about the same credit score. They're not always the same, but they're usually very, very similar, okay? So what is credit? Well, credit is a number assigned to you based on a couple different factors, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the number tells lending institutions, who usually don't know you from Adam, how likely you are to be responsible with money, how likely you are to pay on time, to pay it back. And obviously, the higher the credit number, the better. So, Pam, I'd like to share my screen right now, if you're able. Sorry, I'm really close to the camera.
Yes, let's see.
Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh.
All right, hold on.
Share me.
Julia, I'm going to have to make you the host, and then when you're finished sharing your screen, so I'm going to switch it to you. Now you can share your screen. At the bottom, green.
Oh, share screen.
Green arrow.
I'm a Sharon.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. So I believe you guys can see this. So, okay, so what you want to see, this is an overview of credit. And so you see, like, credit starts at 300 and goes all the way up to 850, okay? And so you see from 800 to 750 is excellent. 750 to 700 is pretty good. 650 to 700 is fair. And pretty much anything below 650 is, you know, really in the red zone. Okay, so those are the different scores that, you know, people could have. Okay, there are a couple different factors that play into this. And actually, before I go into that, let me share this. One of the websites that I think is fantastic on credit scores, and I'm going to share this too. I have it pulled up. It's credit. Oh, it logged me out. CreditKarma.com. I don't know if you all are familiar with CreditKarma.com, but you know, I logged in here and it's free. And the way that they make their money is by they're able to recommend credit cards or financial options for you based on your credit score. And that's how they make their money, is through they're able to advertise. And so this is my actual credit score, and it shows me 2 of the 3 credit, you know, credit bureaus. And so you see they're not exactly the same, but they're very, very similar. And so that's a fantastic way to recommend that to your consultants, to actually know their credit score. And by pulling this, it does not count as a hard ding on their credit. So what I want to go through are some of the factors that actually affect credit. Okay, let me pull that back up again. Where are we here? Here we go. Here are the different things that affect credit scores. Okay, so and I want you to pay attention. There's basically 5 to 6 things that affect credit scores. One is your payment history. 35% of your credit score comes from payment history. Are you paying bills on time? Obviously, if you don't pay on time, that will negatively impact your credit. The second thing is amount owed, meaning your available credit, like how much credit you have available to you versus how much are your credit cards how much of a balance. So my one credit card I have is like 30,000, on it, but at any given time, I just have a couple thousand charged on it. So I have a lot of leeway on my credit. And many times what I'll do, I'll call my credit card like once a year, and I'll just ask them, can they up my available credit? And they'll get back to me yay or nay, but they'll keep upping it as I keep asking, because that looks better when you have more possibility to spend, but you're withholding, you're showing restraint, and you're not maxing it out. So if you have cards that are maxed out, particularly over a long period of time, that would negatively affect your credit. Okay. The third thing would be the length of your credit history, meaning the longer you've had a credit card open, the longer you've had a home mortgage or home equity line, or longer you've had, a car loan. The age of your accounts is important, and we'll get to in a little bit, because one of the factors that we might run into are people who say, I don't have bad credit, I just have no credit because I'm new to credit, okay? But anything over 10 years, particularly having a credit card for up to 10 years, it looks very favorably on your credit score, okay? The next one would be the mix of credit, like the types of credit used, your mix of accounts. So it actually helps your credit score when you have a home loan and a car mortgage and credit cards. So you've got a couple different financial institutions that you are that they are lending you money. So that is positive for credit scores. And the last thing would be new credit, meaning the number of inquiries to your credit. So this is important for you as a sales director to understand this, that whenever you apply for a credit card, whenever you apply for a loan or a car loan, etc., when a financial institution has to go to Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax and ask what your credit score is, that counts as a hard ding. And it will actually decrease your credit score a couple of points. Now, if you're shopping for a home loan and you're shopping around and you go to 3 different banks to try to find the best possible bank, credit bureaus understand that 3 dings in a short period of time means you must be shopping for a home loan, and that's not going to negatively affect your dings as much as just applying for 10 credit cards would be, okay? But those are things that will negatively affect your credit. The last thing that's not on this chart is our derogatory remarks, meaning if you have a bankruptcy or anything has been sent to collections on you. So if you run into a new beauty consultant who, has had a bankruptcy or collections called on her, it's very, very unlikely that she's going to be approved for a card. The reason I want to go over this with you is because I want you to understand the credit score isn't this magic number. It's actually made of real data. So one of the obstacles that you can come into is when you have someone who's young, there's just no data on her yet. She hasn't had the opportunity to have credit. And so I want to unshare my screen now, and I must go to stop share. Is that right?
Yeah, and then you're going to throw it back to me as host so we can answer questions.
Okay.
Click on my picture, and then you can see those little dots.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make host. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're good. All right. Let me get back to my notes here. Okay. So back to the obstacle of if she has no established credit history. Okay. Where does she get credit? Well, the first thing I want you to understand about this is that her beginning her credit history is a good thing. Okay, and I want you to be able to speak with authority to your new gals who have no credit yet, is to say, girl, do you ever want to buy a house like later in life? Do you ever want to be able to get obviously I want them to earn these with cars or Mary Kay, but you want to make sure they understand that their beginning of credit right now, as long as they manage it responsibly, is a benefit to her later on down the road. When my dad immigrated to America at age 35, he wanted to buy a home. And the American banks were like, sorry, you don't have any credit. And he was like, what do you mean I don't have any credit? I'm a responsible 35-year-old hardworking man. And someone had to explain to him, you have no credit. Even though you're a hard worker, it doesn't mean anything. We have no data on you. And so he had to learn the process of getting credit. So her actually getting a loan for her Mary Kay business or a credit card is actually a positive thing for someone who is young. Asterisk, as long as she manages it responsibly. Okay, so what do you do when you run into that? Well, there are 6 things that I want to give you, 6 notes on this point. Okay, the first thing is, back in the day, we would recommend co-signers. And now banks are actually, instead of co-signing, they're more so leaning towards recommending a parent or someone with good credit to add her as an authorized user. So I write down authorized user. When you have an authorized user, essentially, someone has the main credit card and then authorized user, you have, a credit card in your name, but you're ultimately not responsible for the payment. The main person that the credit card is in is still ultimately responsible for that. But if you add an authorized user, she can get a card in her name and she can essentially piggyback on someone else's credit history. And after some time, it's shown that the primary cardholder's credit does positively or negatively influence the authorized user credit a little bit. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, maybe she's young, but there's a good chance that she has a bank account. And so I think one of the obvious steps is, if she has a savings account or a checking account, suggest she start at her bank, okay? Because at her bank where she has a savings or checking is a bank where she has a relationship there, okay? So the second part is recommend she go to the bank she's already banking with because they know her. She has a history with them. The third point is, I gotta say it, I love a loan. I love a loan. I love a loan. It's actually my favorite 10 times over a credit card. Any day of the week, I'll recommend a loan. And I think that we tend to veer folks towards a credit card because you can apply for them quickly. You can easily apply for them over the internet. You don't have to walk into a bank. And there's nothing wrong with veering people toward a credit card. I think it's just like we've just gotten into a habit of recommending credit cards. It's just like what we do. But, oftentimes also the word loan could kind of scare someone off who's younger. The word loan just seems kind of a big deal. But I believe that we have a better shot at actually keeping our new beauty consultants when they get a loan simply because there's more accountability there. The payments for a loan are spread out over time. There is a set payment schedule. It provides a genuine opportunity for her to build credit and to establish a relationship with a local bank. With a loan, you just feel more inclined to make a payment on time, I think, because there's an actual entity who is expecting an actual payment versus a credit card where you have the option to make a minimum payment, right? There's no minimum payment on a loan. With a credit card, there is the option to not pay the full amount. You can just pay a minimum payment instead of the full payment. And I just think it's very tempting to simply pay the minimum payment. Okay, so can you see where a loan would build in more accountability, particularly with a younger person who doesn't have credit? You want to make sure you're establishing good habits, good financial habits. And I just believe her getting a loan, while it may feel a little more intimidating than an ease of a credit card, I just think we're going to keep her longer when she has a loan. That's my opinion. All right, the fourth point is I love credit unions. I love credit unions as much as I love loans. Okay, why? The reason why I love credit unions is because you may not know what is a credit union, but a credit union exists for the consumer instead of a for-profit bank. So for that reason, because they exist for the consumer, they're not really out to make a profit or as much profit as a regular bank. So credit unions are notorious for not only being easier to acquire credit, they're way more lenient at giving younger people loans. They typically have lower interest rates and significantly less fees, okay? So I would suggest to make credit unions your friend. When I was a student at the University of Kentucky, I walked in the UK Federal Credit Union at the age of 19, and I walked out with a car loan. No questions asked. It was like bada bing, bada bing. Of course we'll give you a car loan. And it was very empowering to walk in as a teenager and walk out with a loan. I felt so grown up. So credit unions used to be kind of hard to get into. They used to be just for teacher credit unions or university credit unions. And now, in my town at least, there are several other independent credit unions where you don't have to be affiliated with any certain group. And I'm going to guess that that might be the case in your area too, that more credit unions are popping up. And why are they popping up? Because they work. Okay. The fifth thing I want to suggest for someone who has no credit yet or little credit is because, little credit would be going to creditkarma.com like I just mentioned. The reason why I like Credit Karma is simply because they recommend credit cards that tend to accept people with that credit score. So Credit Karma is in the business of finding cards that will work for people with that credit score because that's how they make money. They don't want to recommend a card that someone is not going to get. And so if you've got someone with a beginner credit, oftentimes they're going to be approved for like a student credit card. A student credit card is a lower credit limit, usually like maybe $500, but at least it gets them started with building credit and building a credit score. So at least Credit Karma will point them to a direction where they have more likely chance of getting approved. Okay, and the sixth thing I would say for someone who's starting out with credit, would be the Mary Kay credit card. I asked some of my directors, what credit score do you typically have to get to get the Mary Kay card? And I think it was around 670-ish, maybe. Maybe some of you all know better than I know, because the Mary Kay credit card kind of came about after I was in NSC. But that 670 range is like in the fair range. Okay, and so that's probably a real no-brainer because that's right there on your computer screen. But that is another really good option. So just to review, for someone that has no established credit, I would say suggesting an authorized user on a current credit card. Number 2, go to the bank she already is at with her savings or checking account. Number 3, encourage her to get a loan, maybe from the bank she's already at. Number 4, encourage her to get a loan or a credit card from a local credit union. Number 5, send her to creditkarma.com so that it points her in the right direction with which credit card for her score. And number 6, the Mary Kay credit card is a great option. Okay, so that's a little bit about if someone has no, basically starting credit. Okay, the next thing I wanted to go into, I've heard many times in my career the phrase, I'm buying a house. I don't want to apply for a credit card because I don't want to do anything. I don't want to jeopardize my loan for the house. Is that true or false? True or false? What do you think? Sadly, it's true. I wish I could tell you that's not right, but it is. Every time, remember, like I said, you apply for a credit card, it's a hard credit ask, okay? And it does decrease your credit score by a few points, which probably is not that big of a deal unless you're on the verge, okay? So if she's at 702 and she applies for a credit card, that could easily bring her below 700, which puts her in a different category. And that could actually cost someone a way higher interest rate on a home loan, which literally could cost her thousands over the long term with a different loan on her mortgage. So, if she has an 800 or above, it's probably not a big deal, but it's why you want to have her figure out what her credit score is. And again, she can figure that out by going to Credit Karma. In that situation, I would just give her the information and I would let her make the decision. I wouldn't want to feel that. Okay. So that is a little segment on credit scores, and I hope that part at least has equipped you with a little bit more on understanding the confidence and the authority that you want to have around understanding credit and advising consultants. Okay, what you don't want to do is you don't want to have a new consultant apply for a whole bunch of different cards. Okay, because that looks like she's fishing around for credit, which she would be, and that is really going to decrease her score by quite a few points. Okay, so you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you have a game plan, and then she goes off and goes to the game plan instead of just scattering a shotgun and doing a bunch of different things. Okay, all right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next section, and if you guys have questions, Pam or Leah can answer those. Okay, my second section is about you as a leader, as the one sitting in the position to give advice, how you really want to take ownership of this, and you want to take ownership of the very products that you are recommending to your new gals. Okay, the products being the financial products. Okay, and you want to develop relationship with bankers who can support the efficiency of your business. Okay, so I visited a couple of banks. This is before we did our first trip. Remember what I said was that my one metric, if I could bring up this one thing, it would be the game changer in taking us from $500,000 to the trip. And that was increasing my new consultant initial order. Okay. So I visited a couple of banks totally on my own. And I said, hey, you need to know me. I'm in your pipeline, okay? I'm sitting in a position where I can send people your way. I just want to develop a relationship with you and see if we can work together, okay? There is nothing someone in business, particularly a banker, loves more than to hear, hey, I'm in your pipeline, okay? That's a big deal. Wouldn't you love it if someone came to you and said, hey, I'm in your pipeline. I can send people to you. Like I'm in the wedding business. I know all kinds of brides. I can send them to you. Or I'm a photographer. I can send people to you. I mean, that's like music to your ears. So I share that to say, don't be intimidated about marching yourself into a bank. I mean, you're the one holding all the cards, right? You've got all the chips. And so I would march into banks and say, hey, I'm in your pipeline. You need to know me, okay? I'm sitting in a position where I can send people your way. And I would sit down with bankers and I would explain the typical needs of a Mary Kay consultant, okay? And while most banks would be used to giving larger loans, perhaps, than a Mary Kay person might need, it's still a great introduction for the bank to meet with someone who could use their services. Okay, like no customer is too small, because all banks are looking to build relationships with people. Okay, people's banking needs grow over time. Okay, as they grow. So this is a benefit to your banks. Okay, so I would explain to my bankers that in Mary Kay, we need access to credit, and we need to access quickly. Okay, we need to know if they have access to credit quickly, and we need to know if they've been denied. We need to know within a couple days. It needs to be fast. If we do a credit card, we need the credit card number. We need the expiration date. We need a usable number right away. We don't have to have the card. We just have to have the number, okay? We need accounts with no fees. Like, I would explain this to the bankers and say, you know, what is it that you could offer me that I could share with the people I could be sending to you, okay? So as a leader, you want to own this, okay? I do get the feeling that a lot of us are just kind of depending on other directors to inform you what they do. Okay, you're like, hey, so-and-so, what do you do? Hey, so-and-so, what do you do? And not actually calling yourself or marching yourself into a bank yourself, okay? I'm telling you, when you take ownership of this, then your confidence is totally going to change, rather than, I think if you call Chase, they're going to say this. Like, you need to know because you've done it yourself, all right? It's going to sink in a lot more. And so when I was a sales director, I spent time building relationships with banks that I was recommending. So the first piece of this would be credit cards I was recommending. Okay, I called and marched myself into US Bank. I called and marched myself into Fifth Third. I called and marched myself into Chase. Okay, and I asked them, walk me through, as if I was the one applying for the card, walk me through every part of the process that a new consultant would go through when she applied for the card. Okay, so I actually knew what info that the new consultant needed at the point she applied for the card, okay, and was able to give her advice like, okay, when you do online or you call in for this card, you need to know this. You need to have this on hand. You need to know, instead of saying you've worked somewhere for 5 years, you need to say 5 years, 6 months. Like, I found out details on what she needed, okay? I asked them, what credit score does someone usually need to have to get approved? What's the typical credit limit that someone for this card gets approved for? And the big ding, 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 how will she know if she's approved? Will she be told right away? Okay, if she's not approved, what will they tell her? Or what does the internet message say? Like, we need to know the code, okay? So if the internet message comes back and says, thank you for applying, you'll be notified in 7 to 10 business days. We need to know, okay, that's code for didn't get approved. Like, I need to know what happens in both scenarios. How long will it take the card to arrive in the mail? Would there be any way for her card to be expedited? How can we get it faster? Are there any fees involved in that? Are there any annual fees? So these are the types of questions I would be asking bankers. They're very detailed, but you want to make a mental movie of it. You want to make a mental movie of it in your mind, so when you're recommending this to a consultant, you can walk her through step by step. This is what's going to happen, so she can make a mental movie also, okay? Now, for a bank loan or for a credit union, again, I walked into the bank and I would ask questions like, I would ask what their typical loan rate would be. What's the typical length of a small loan for $4,000? You know, what does that payment typically look like? On a $4,000 loan over 4 years, what could a consultant expect to make a monthly payment on that? What does someone have to do to become a member at the credit union? Are there any hidden fees or yearly fees at a credit union? What if she pays off a loan early? If I send someone to this bank, what kind of service can she expect? What's the wait time? Does she need an appointment, or can she just walk in? Who is the person that she needs to ask for? So I knew these things. And then in my revised welcome packet, I included little hints and tips on the page where it recommends different credit cards. And it also has creditkarma.com on there. And when I share my screen, next time I share my screen, I'll show you that page. Okay. But the point is, you guys, is I took time as a leader to make those calls, to walk into those banks, to ask those questions. And since I did that, I took my precious time to do that. I owned it, and I could speak with confidence. So did it take time? Yeah, I did. Was it worth it? Absolutely. I honestly think it was a key factor in our finishing our very first top director trip, because not only was it efficient to say, hey, call Scott Talley at Fifth Third. Here's his number. Here's the info you need to have together before you call, and he'll walk you through it, okay? You guys, to say, hey, here's so-and-so's number, Here's what you need. Call them. They'll totally take care of you. Tell them Julia sent you. Can you imagine, as a new consultant, young or old, how that's like a safety and security? Like, you're not leaving to chance and sending her out on her own to navigate what could be intimidating. Like, you have a plan, and you're giving her the plan. Okay. Not only was it efficient, but I think it kind of started to change my own perception of myself and what I did for a living, because something about it felt so professional. And in a way, in my brain, it kind of like elevated what I felt like I did for a living. And so to tie this part up with a bow, I just want to ask, can you see, like, when a new consultant says, okay, I want to start with a star order, I'm going to need to finance it. And we say, okay, what's your credit score? Can you see how you as a leader could say, oh, it's a 600, and you can kind of direct her to an authorized user or to Credit Karma to see what student credit card maybe she might get. Or can you see if she says, okay, my credit score is a 750, like, she probably could get any card or any loan that she wants with a 750. Like, banks are eager to lend someone that money. Imagine how your authority and your confidence would be strengthened with that type of background knowledge. Like, I think it could change, your whole demeanor. And so that's why it's so important that you own this, because with the ownership of this, you will be able to give a plan to your consultants with, okay, if A doesn't work, then we can do point B. If B doesn't work, we could do point C. Okay. There are other ways to begin that don't necessarily involve credit or getting a loan. Obviously, she may have it in savings. It may be good old-fashioned hard work, some type of mascara-thon or a 24-24-24. Maybe someone could lend it to her. Maybe she could sell something around her house to get money. I mean, there's many creative ways to come up with financing. I've yet to see someone who genuinely wanted to start with inventory or some type of product who was willing to work for it, that we couldn't figure some conglomeration, okay, to get her started. All right. So before I move on to the next part, which is a totally different subject, which is new consultant education, do you guys have any questions right now before we move on?
Julie, the only thing, this is awesome information. The only thing I wanted to add to creditkarma.com, if they actually apply for a credit card that same day, it does not hit against their report ever.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Kim McClure shared that with me.
Huh. I was thinking if they went to Credit Karma to find out their credit score, that they didn't even get dinged at all for checking on credit. I feel like there's some clause like once a year, like you're entitled as a consumer to pull your credit to know what it is.
So one time, okay.
I'm almost positive, but but with that, I remember reading up on Credit Karma, and I remember them saying, by doing this, it will not affect your credit score.
Okay.
But I bet I know what it is, though. If they apply for a credit card, that credit company is going to have to pull their credit, like a hard pull.
Right.
That's probably what it is. If they apply for their credit card, that hard pull maybe won't affect their credit, which I don't know how they could make that happen, but that would be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's just good for us to know those things. So thank you.
It's a great service.
It is. The other thing Credit Karma will do is it will monitor your credit score too. Like if something crazy hits it, it'll let you know.
And hey, Julia, Cody just posted a question that if they had a bad credit score, how quickly can you fix a bad credit score?
Oh, how can you fix that credit?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer that in the chat.
Time. I kind of researched it a little bit. This is just from Google searches, so this isn't like official. Based on my Google search, what I found is time. Okay. It's consistency over time, making good choices over time. So it's not a quick fix. It's literally going to be years of paying on time, not maxing out credit cards. There's no magic bullet to fix credit.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah. It takes a long time to build it, but you could ruin it in
right?
Lightning fast.
Right, absolutely.
I do just about everything.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's a universal truth.
I think that this would be good info for like high school students to have. Like people need to understand, because like in college, there'd be people standing on the street just like handing out credit card applications, and giving out t-shirts if you apply, and no education whatsoever. So I do feel like if we're in the position to recommend a credit card or a loan, I think part of that is important that you pair that with the thought that, hey, you are now going to be responsible for paying this back, and you've got to pay it on time. So, all right, I see Cindy said something like it's actually less than that. So that's good, 6 months to a year. But I do know it's time. It's not a quick fix.
And I did read they do prey on college students because they've done studies that whatever first credit card somebody opens, there's like a sentimental, emotional attachment to that card and that bank, and that'll be the card they keep the longest. So just something interesting about how banks are thinking when they're offering credit to especially college students. I feel like that's important.
Wow.
So.
Very cool. Well, I think one of the main points I want all of us to take away from this is we tend to just credit card. Okay, credit card. Okay, credit card. And what I want you to take away from this is I also want you to think loan, because I just think it's for attrition. It's my opinion. It's not like heaven or hell. I just think loans there's so much more accountability there. And I think we keep people longer when they have a loan. And I want them to have a loan payment, then they have to keep going. So.
And Julia, isn't a loan even better for their credit because it's not a revolving line of credit? A loan is like closed, whereas a credit card, there's continual spending that can happen on it. Whereas a loan, it's not this revolving line of credit that can continue to grow. So I think loans are even better. They're much better for your credit score than a credit card would be.
So I know
secure, where a credit card is more dangerous.
I could see that. Yeah, I know Mary just posted that that's the case. So I don't know that, but my instinct says that's probably correct.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I hope that part at least has been helpful because I didn't know any of that, you guys, for years. I was a sales director recommending credit cards and I didn't know any of it. And so I just think that would be helpful for us to know. So the next part that I want to move into is new consultant education. Okay, and this is a topic that we probably get 5 Zoom chats over new consultant education, and I'm just going to give you a cursory overview of that because this is very much a part, in my opinion, of not just educating your new, but I think it's also part of attrition, and I think it's part of attraction. I think it affects attraction, attrition, and education. Like it kind of affects all of this, okay? And I'll get into that in a second. So 2 major points on new consultant education. Number 1, absolutely, 100%, you must offer it. I think that's an absolute in my book. The second thing is it must happen at regular intervals, okay? You got to have it, and you got to have it regularly, okay? So I think it goes back to safety and security of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay? So when your new consultant education is in place, I have noticed it's amazing how over time, how you attract more new into your unit, okay? And I believe part of that is because your new unit members will be more likely to bring someone onto their team when they feel that security that there's something in place to support her new team member, okay? Where the opposite is also true when we don't have anything scheduled, there's nothing on the books for new consultant education. I think your recruiters kind of like hold back a little bit because there's like that fear, like, gosh, I don't want to bring her in and I don't know what to do with her because there's nothing for her to go to. And yeah, I've seen that happen many, many times. And I do think often we ascribe to this paradoxical thinking that there's no new people, so therefore we don't need new consultant training. But in my opinion, I believe you schedule it first, then they're attracted to you because it's on the calendar. Okay, there's like this subconscious bent towards finding the new people to come to the new consultant training, okay? Now, I've had new consultant training where it was just me and like 3 adoptees, okay? And I didn't bat an eye. Now, I made a note to myself that never again will I invest 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon in new consultant training without making sure that I've got some people there, of course. I would get on the phone and drum up some excitement for it and just make sure my people knew about it and they were coming. But I want you to know I would never have canceled it. Just because there were adoptees coming and none of my own. Okay, my mindset was I saw it as practice. I saw it as practice, and every time I went through my training, I got better at it, and I got better at training. Okay, I also want to say that what's on InTouch in the form of MKU and Color Confident and those programs, I think that they're really well done, and I'm really proud of them. And in my opinion, they're great supplemental programs. However, I don't feel like they're intended to replace your role as a sales director to educate and strongly onboard your new consultants. Okay, so the first question is, when do you do it and how often? I have offered new consultant training every which way. I've done 4 hours on one Sunday. I've done 2 2-hour blocks on Saturday mornings, like before muffins and makeovers. I've offered it every Thursday evening. I've built it as part of my unit meeting. I've done it before the unit meeting. I really, and it changed depending on my life and what was going on in my family and my schedule. I will say, if I look back and I think of which ones were my favorite, my personal favorite were the 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon or the 4 hours on a Saturday morning. Consultants would bring a bag lunch, and for some reason, when there's that 4-hour chunk, people who were out of town, they would drive in for that. If I had it at my house, I could show them my inventory, how I had it set up. I could show them my desk. I could show them my InTouch screen. I could show them how I packed for a party. I didn't have to lug anything out of my house. The downside of offering it that way is if it was only once a month, unless you have it also videoed and on your site and accessible to people remotely, many people will wait and they'll do nothing until that one training. Okay, and so that was a downside of it, but it truly was my favorite because I felt like after 4 hours we really got to bond together and we bond with each other. Okay, so you decide in your time of life, what makes sense for you. Okay, the second part was, why is it important? Well, we know, and this is mostly for the benefit of our newer sales directors and for our DIQs, but we know that they are kind of blank slates. They don't have any bad habits yet, and that they really listen to you that first 6 weeks. Okay, it's a time for them to begin creating good habits in their business, and you truly have a lot more influence on them in that first 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, I have found that whoever conducts their new consultant education is who they typically bond with. Okay, the third point is what are you doing? Okay, well, here's the deal. I've heard people do training and say, I'm not going to give you my training. You sit down and you come up with it. You know what to do. You know what to say. I also feel like when you're a new director, there's a lot of that. And you're like, somebody just give me the plan. And so I'm going to tell you what I would do, not to say do this at all, because I do believe that you can come up with your own training. But I'm going to give you the outline of what I would train on just so you can get started on it. And it's my deepest hope that you would take that and eventually it would like morph into your own. And eventually you will make it your own and you add in your own flavor. Okay. I would recommend, and this is what I did, I started with a blank piece of paper and I asked myself, by the time they leave my training, what do I really want them to know and what do I want them to be thinking? Okay, what do I want them to know and what do I want them to be thinking? Okay, and so I actually created my own outline. Okay, and I'll give you my outline here in a second. Let me get to my other notes. I've got to shift gears here. But it's on my website. It's under juliaburnett.com. You click on business, then you click on new director training. Okay, and it's new consultant outline. My password for my site is revolution, all lowercase. Okay, I printed out handouts so everyone could have handouts. I really believe that they needed it on paper. I brought highlighters and markers to the training so they could write on their paper. Eventually, I charged like $5, for the handouts. If I did it today, probably a better way to do it would be to have all the handouts together in one packet and a PDF, put it on my website and say, print these out and bring them with you. That probably would have been a little more efficient. And in the training, I would look for ways that they could role play. What I didn't want it to be would be for me talking at them for 4 hours, okay? Especially today, talk about eyes glazed over. You want as much interaction and role play as possible. I was reading a book, The Talent Code, and it talked about Coach John Wooden. The way he's known for being one of the number one coaches, in all of history. And the way that he would show his players in basketball is he would model the correct way, and then he would model the wrong way, and then he would model the correct way again. So it's the correct way, wrong way, correct way. And it only took like maybe 30 seconds, okay? I would suggest that you role play with them how to do it properly, then how not to do it, then how to do it properly, okay? Don't you think they're more likely to remember that? And so if you're modeling like role playing, let's say booking people on the phone, you could role play, like get a phone and a cell phone and be like, well, is there any reason why that we couldn't get together? It's just so much fun. You say that, and then you go, well, I know you probably don't want to do this, but I just started Mary Kay. I know. And I mean, like literally you do that. Then you go back to, okay, is there any reason why do you see how that could be so effective to do the right way? What you imagine they might be saying, and then the right way. Okay. And I think that's going to make it stick. And then I would have people role play with one another, and I would just try to make it as interactive as possible. Okay. So I'm not going to go through my entire new consultant training, but I do want to give you more detail on the first hour of my training. Okay, it was a 4-hour training with the understanding that it's not just 4 hours. I mean, training and education is ongoing, but that first hour, I gotta tell you, it was strong. The first hour was absolutely strong. That first hour was how to think and vision casting. And studies have shown that people remember more what they learned at the very beginning and at the very end. So like if you took a class you were there for an hour, you're more likely to remember the first 5 minutes, what the professor started off with and what the professor ended with. The middle, maybe so, okay? And so I knew that first hour they were fresh, and it was really, really important that part was really powerful. And so I will show you now. Okay, now Pam, I need to share my screen. Can I just click on share screen?
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna make you the host again.
Okay.
See if you can. Well, no, I think you'll share my screen. Okay, now you can share your screen.
Will this work? Am I doing it?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, now I got to move this thing out of here. Here we go. Okay, so this is on my website. Okay. Okay, this is under new directors. This is my outline, because I had directors to say, I don't know what to do for new consultant training. So again, I just want to be very clear. I'm only giving this to you. So if you're new and you don't know where to start, you have a place to start. But I want to encourage you, you make this your own. Okay. So the first 15 minutes is, basically us talking and me getting to know them. They get to know each other. All right. This is the part I want you to see, this vision casting. Okay. In the vision casting thing, I would talk about, these are things that if I could summarize what I've learned in Mary Kay, these are the things that I would want you to know, okay? And I would include the emotional cycle, and this is the handout that I would give them. And I would stress that the emotional cycle is the cycle of anything new, not just Mary Kay. You guys, anytime you can connect the non-Mary Kay world to the Mary Kay world, like ratio, numbers, the PTA, church groups, school, your neighborhood, anytime you can normalize what we experience in Mary Kay is normal with the human population, that will help them to see, oh, ratios are normal. Okay, so I included vision casting. I would connect the profit from a power start with their why. I would draw stick figures. I would walk people through the marketing plan. I would actually say, okay, you're new, and I would draw a stick figure. And then I would say, okay, so you get your first team member, and I would draw a stick figure underneath you. And then you want to get into red jacket, and I would draw 2 more stick figures. I would show, the 8 or the 10 to get into DIQ, and then how you build up to 24, how you build to 30. And I would show them stick figures. And so that visual, I think, is what helped them to remember. Okay. Okay. And then down here are statements I wish I had internalized earlier. I'm not going to sit here and read these to you, but they were things like, I must talk to the many to find the few who are meant to be with me all along. I can't control other people, but I can control me, my activity, my attitude. The fortune and the follow-up, care enough to prepare. I mean, these are things that I would have them write down and say, these are the bullet points. If I could go back and say from the very first hour of training, what I would want to dump into me, it's this. Okay, so I won't read this training to you, but my point is just saying that I believe this was a key in developing a really strong national area, was that in the first hour, it was how to think, lessons I've learned, working the numbers, and how to move up the marketing plan. And so that was very, very, very strong. Okay. The second biggest point that I felt like I would be doing them a disservice if they did not walk away from my training with this is how to book from their bookings. Okay. And so that was the very next thing. I spent an entire hour on how to book from bookings and the one-on-one consultation. I would show them the flip chart, and I would literally say, when this is mastered, the one-on-one at the end, you don't ever have to go back to the phone to book. Okay. I will pay you. If I said, I'll pay you $7,000 to memorize this and have the courage to say this and not skip steps, would you do it? They'd be like, yes. And so I'd make them memorize these 6 questions. Or these 6 parts of booking from bookings and how to memorize a strong close at the end. And I thought, if the only thing they walked away today from was the vision of what's possible in Mary Kay and how to think in the emotional cycle and how to book from those daggone bookings, that is everything. If they can just keep it going, they can keep it going. I will have felt good about it. So the rest of it is all here. These are all the, the handouts that I would give them. You could see, and I would end with customer service and showing them how to pack and all of that. So, that's what I would do. But I just wanted to show you that that's how I would train them. If I had to do it over again, the only thing I would add that's not in that training is money management. I would include money management a lot in additional training. I didn't necessarily go over a new consultant education that first 4 hours, but you want to make sure you're like a duck on dough with money management. Okay, so that's the only thing I would add today into that. Okay, now let me talk about the how. Okay, so I gave you my plan. Feel free to use it if you want. Okay, but how would you go about your own new consultant education when you're ready to do that? Okay, it would be, number 1, to schedule the time to work on it. Okay, I learned that from Leah. Leah would always say with big projects, so she would just, when she said I needed to record something, that's back when you had a digital voice recorder, Leah, you said, my very first day was find the batteries for the digital voice recorder and find the digital voice recorder. That was on her to-do list one day. Okay, and then the next day was think about it for 30 minutes. Yeah, like what, it was like so baby. And I was like, oh my gosh, find the batteries. I can do that. So schedule the time to work on it. Okay. And the other thing I want to say that might be helpful, many of you are external processors, meaning you think out loud, like you don't think inside, you think by journaling or you think by talking. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, Mary Cho, you and me, let's sit down and talk about new consultant training. Can we brainstorm it together? Don't do it together, but you want to sit down and talk about what do we think a new consultant needs to know. I mean, sometimes if you brainstorm with one other person, it gives you energy and you can like think better when you've got someone else to bounce ideas off of. Okay. The third thing is you want to begin with the end in mind. Like I said, what I want them to walk away with from the education. And then you also want to work backwards. You see on my training outline how I had 15 minutes, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 10 minutes. So I had a time limit for every pocket of training so that I made sure that I stayed on time with my training. Okay. I also think with the handouts, to get your handouts together in a packet would be very beneficial. Okay. Eventually, I asked my new consultants to bring a binder with them to my training so they could be organized and have a place to put any handouts that they have. Okay. The final point on this is to make it duplicatable. Okay. Make it duplicatable. Sometimes, people just can't make it to the time that you are offering it. I want you to record yourself almost every single time you do it. Record it on your phone, record it on Zoom. Eventually, what we would do is I would do the training in person, and then I would live view them in. So even if they couldn't physically be at my house, they could still watch the training happening on the camera. Okay. You may think, oh, but Julia, I'm not as good as you at doing training. I'm not ready yet for that. And that's crazy. I want to encourage you as a leader to own your leadership and to record yourself and to make that available for your people, because your people need to hear the shepherd's voice. Even if you feel like it's not perfect, so what? It's done, and you want to have it and have it available. A question that I will get a lot is, with today's technology, can we chuck the in-person training and just do it over technology, like a Facebook Live or a Google Hangout or a Zoom? And my answer to that, and there's not one way to do it, my answer is okay, sure. If you're in a season where the bulk of your unit is not local to you, then I want you as a leader to be discerning and to use your discernment gene and to be able to make the call to say, I'm trusting my gut. What's best for my unit in this season might be something via technology. And I want to quickly follow up with an honest question with an honest answer is, am I leaning towards that? Towards offering it through technology because I'm unwilling to be inconvenienced to do it in person? Or is it truly the best for my unit right now? Okay, I just think there's something very special about offering it in person that's just not the same as online. Okay, if it's got to be online, then let's be efficient with it. Let's record it. Let's use that as a Plan B training option. Put it on your website for a future day when you're offering it, I guess, a backup for someone that can't make it. Okay, so it's up to you what you want to do. I just think there's something kinetic about physically being knee to knee with somebody that just is really hard to also accomplish on a webinar. Okay, like when we're at seminar, I mean, it's not the same as like being on the screen. Okay, the final thing I want to say about New Consultant Education is one of the best things I ever did was require that someone to graduate from New Consultant training is that they had to watch a live marriage party. Okay, they had to come with me to a party or go with somebody to a party. Okay, that they had to attend the training and go to a party. I didn't care whose party it was, but they had to go to a party to observe and to watch. And what happened is it made me make sure that I had stuff on my date book. I sat in my car with people in front of someone's house when I got torched. And I was like, so happens to me too. And it was so good for people to watch a live party, not a model skincare class where they're like in a studio, but an actual party in someone's home, I think, bar none, is so helpful. Okay, so just to review, you've got to have your own New Consultant training. Okay, I would not depend solely on the companies. It needs to be at regular intervals. These things build safety and security. It's great to plan, to sit down, and to consider maybe with another leader to get an outline of what you feel that your new people need to know. Begin with the end in mind. Give time limits for different segments, and make it duplicatable and put it somewhere where people can find it. Okay, can you imagine if you as a leader felt that you really had authority on making recommendations, had a plan, you knew the ropes, and you offer that safety and security, to your new gals in the form of a tight, regular New Consultant orientation? Can you imagine what it would do to your confidence and your ability to attract the caliber of women that you desire, in your target market? The last thing I want to end with is a quote by John C. Maxwell, and he says that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. It's the ability to obtain followers, and when the leader lacks confidence, the followers have no commitment. And as a leader is great not because of your power, but because of your ability to empower others. And I believe that that's what you do when you can set up your new consultants for success strongly with product for those who need it, and empower them with a very strong New Consultant education where they feel like they can march out of there. They know how to book someone, they know how to book from a booking, and daggone it, they've got the big vision. So that's what I got today. So Pam and Leah, would you all
awesome. Wow, that was just fantastic, Julia. I mean, it was superb information. It was beautifully delivered. I think they got so much value for their investment of the hour today again. And I just love the whole beginning of taking ownership in that finance piece. I think we tend to dodge it. And just the empowering piece of being able to say to a beauty consultant, overcome her fears. You're not just saying, I've got your back. You're showing her how you have her back. You've already done swarms of research and modern day information that she can trust you. It's building that trust that she can trust you with more. If she can trust you with this, and you're right, she can trust you with more. It's just huge. And really taking ownership in that. I know that one question is going to be when we get off is how they can review your New Consultant outline. So do you mind letting them know where they can find that again with passcode and stuff on your site?
Yeah, it's juliaburnett.com, and you click on business. And then you want to go to the director drop-down menu. It's new directors, not director training, but new directors. And then my password for director parts of my website is just the word revolution, the name of our national area, lowercase. And it's right there. You scroll down a little bit, and it says New Consultant Outline or New Consultant Education Outline. And all the documents that it references are all on our website as well. So if you wanted to pull that, I'm not trying to advocate use mine. I'm just saying, if you need somewhere to start, that's maybe a good starting place.
Yeah. Julia, you didn't spend a lot of time here, but what you said about new consultant training impacts attraction or attrition. That is such a powerful thought that is true not for just new consultant training, but knowing about credit. Every piece of the new consultant system and orientation, them owning their leadership is going to attract or kind of lose people along the way, lose people that could be really engaged. There might be that attrition. So I loved that powerful thought. Attraction or attrition?
Yeah, it was powerful. It really was. Thank you for your investment of preparation. So you guys, let's see, next Monday, noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern, Grace will be sending you the link. It is a webinar. It will include pictures. It will include visuals. It will include booking, coaching style. You will not want to miss it. It is, like Leah wrote on our chat at the beginning, for everybody. All your consultants, all your directors, you can put them on. She's sharing her line with us, and it will host up to 1,000. So it will take care of our available. And then the next Monday, the 9th, is we're back here on the next segment of this. So I think I can stop the recording, Julia, but you still have control of the screen. So
okay.
I think I can do. I'm not sure. Let's just say goodbye and have a great day, everybody.
Okay. I don't see that, babe. I'm sorry.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.